Perimenopause and menopause is having its moment. A lot of people are talking about it. And it's because so many people have stayed silent for so long. And now we're just kind of like, oh, no, 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 no. We can actually experience relief from these symptoms. And not only just by a little, but by a lot, if we know exactly what's going on in our bodies and the different choices that we have to help alleviate the symptoms that we're feeling. Hey, it's your girl Carmel Jean-Francois, owner and founder of CFit Coaching. Welcome back to my channel. And welcome back to another installment of the Sugar Savvy Solution, acclimating the foodie in you to a life beyond sugar. Today, I wanted to discuss the role that estrogen plays on our insulin resistance. So if you're unsure about insulin's role in our body and the role it plays with the development of prediabetes and type 2 diabetes, let me go over that really quickly. Whenever we eat, no matter what we eat, we get a blood sugar spike. And what does that mean? It means there's an influx of sugar that's now entered our bloodstream. And it's not a bad thing. That's what's supposed to happen when we consume food. And of course, that's what happens when we consume foods with sugars in it. And just so that you understand, almost everything we eat has sugar molecules in it, be it vegetables, fruits, or highly refined sugary foods like cakes and muffins, and even that bagel that we might have had this morning for breakfast. And that includes root vegetables too, sweet potato, beets, and it even includes whole grains like our rice. Once the sugar enters our bloodstream, the pancreas releases insulin. It's a hormone that finds the sugar that's in our bloodstream and ushers it or escorts it into our muscle cells so that we can use it for fuel. But the problem is when we consume too much sugar and there's too much insulin being released by the pancreas, we develop what we know as insulin resistance. It's kind of like having your first ever cup of coffee and you're bouncing off the walls because now you have so much energy, right? And in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that same cup of coffee doesn't do what it did before. Now it takes maybe 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 cups of coffee for you to get the same effect. So you are now resistant to the effects of coffee. Just for this argument's sake, that's what we would call coffee resistance. So when too much insulin is being pumped into our body to get rid of the excess sugar, that's what we know as insulin resistance. And that's not where we want to be. We actually want to be insulin sensitive. That means our bodies are actually sensitive to the insulin that's being released in our bodies, so it's able to do with the sugar that's in our blood what it's supposed to do, deliver it into the cells so that we have the energy to move. Now, friends, for those of us who are born with ovaries, there comes a stage in our lives where we go through perimenopause. Perimenopause can start to show itself and it starts to appear in different types of symptoms that's going on in our bodies, whether we recognize it or not, as early as 35 years of age. And it could go well into our early 50s. For some people, perimenopause can last about 12 to 15 years. It's true. And it's nothing to laugh about. But it's nothing to be scared about either, because as long as we are provided with the information and the care that we need during this time of life, then it can actually be smooth. But the trick is the education portion of it. Now, perimenopause and menopause is having its moment. A lot of people are talking about it. And it's because so many people have stayed silent for so long. And now we're just kind of like, oh, no, 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 no. We can actually experience relief from these symptoms, and not only just by a little, but by a lot, if we know exactly what's going on in our bodies and the different choices that we have to help alleviate the symptoms that we're feeling. So let's go back to the insulin resistance. Once our bodies have become insulin resistant, what it means is that our bodies have stopped or is no longer able to produce the insulin required to remove the sugar from our blood and into the cells. there's too much sugar roaming around in our blood, the sugar tends to deposit itself around our organs and it turns into fat. And that might express itself as that belly fat that many women around this stage of life start to complain about. The recompositioning of the way fat is distributed is completely changed. And that's where we tend to experience it. And then what transpires from there can quickly lead us to type 2 diabetes. The fact of the matter is, it is so common for those of us going through this stage of life to get diagnosed with prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. And it's because of the hormone estrogen. Estrogen, like I mentioned in a previous video, is like our BFF who's been taking care of us for all of these years, and we've not been showing our gratitude towards her. And now she's had enough. She's packed her bags and she's out the door. She's like, deal with life yourself. And that's exactly what we're left to do once we hit this perimenopause stage of life and estrogen walks out the door. Why is that? The reason is because we have estrogen receptors in every area of our bodies, in our brains, our organs, our muscles, our tissues. Everything is regulated by estrogen. And now estrogen has walked out the door. So what are we to do? We are left with our own devices. And being that estrogen regulates every function in our bodies, it regulates all our hormones as well. So besides insulin, other hormones are affected. With estrogen gone, insulin is not working as well. And when insulin isn't working as well, our risk for type 2 diabetes increases. Now, it's not because of estrogen that this is all happening. It's just that we were protected by estrogen. Again, estrogen is that hormone that's been taking care of us. So we've been protected. And now that estrogen is gone, we no longer have estrogen's protection against insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, as well as a plethora of other chronic conditions. So what can we do to protect ourselves from going down that path of insulin resistance, prediabetes, and type 2 diabetes? I have a few tips for you, and they're actually not far from the things that you've been hearing from me previously anyway. But let's refresh our memory because it's so important that we adhere to these tips in order to prevent ourselves from being diagnosed as pre-diabetic and diabetic. So I have 5 tips for you. The first 3 are related, and I'm going to tie it all in for you at the end. So the first one is avoid all processed foods. What do you want me to eat, Carmel? I want us to think plants. And this is not the video where I'm telling you to go whole food plant-based. I'm always telling you to go whole food plant-based. But this is where I am explaining to you the importance of consuming plants. And when I say plants, what do I mean? I mean eating from the produce section, a lot more than you ever have. Our fruits and vegetables all contain not only the macronutrients that we need, but it also contains micronutrients, our vitamins, our minerals. All of these nutrients support our bodies, support our hormones, and support everything that helps function in our body. Our plant-based foods have a ton of fiber. And that's the second tip, fiber. And why is fiber so important? Fiber produces gut bacteria that helps slow down digestion and actually helps increases our insulin sensitivity. Fiber is a good thing. And fiber we can only find in our fruits and vegetables. The healthy combination of lean protein, carbohydrates, and heart-healthy fats is that it slows down digestion and it helps stabilize our blood sugar levels. It's so important. So I mentioned not eating ultra-processed food and eating more whole foods, like from the produce section. I mentioned fiber, I mentioned protein, carbohydrates, and I mentioned healthy fats. But Carmel, can you tell me exactly what foods I should be eating to get all of those benefits of all of those types of foods? I'd be happy to. So if we're thinking about proteins, we're thinking about beans and legumes, nuts and seeds. Those are all high protein foods. If we're thinking high carbohydrates, we're thinking about any of the vegetables, especially the vegetables that have high water content, which would be our dark leafy greens, radishes, even our cauliflower, broccoli, carrots, and all of our fruits, just to name a few. Our heart-healthy fats would include avocado, nuts and seeds, olives. And there you have the benefit of staying away from the ultra-processed foods and really going plant-forward and plant-based. Last two tips I have for you are things that many people know that are super, super important, but sometimes they prove to be a little bit more challenging to adhere to. Building muscle and sleep. And when I say building muscle, I mean exactly that. I'm not talking about just any type of movement. I'm not talking about just walking around the block or going out for a run. I'm not talking about the Stairmaster, and I'm not talking about gardening. I'm not talking about cleaning up the house. Although I do promote every type of movement, including all those that I just mentioned. However, when I say build muscle, building muscle literally takes the sugar that's present in our bloodstream and it takes it right into the cells without the need to disturb or bother or recruit insulin. And that's the beauty of it. Don't be afraid to include strength training into whatever your normal movement routine is. It's imperative, and it helps us really combat the dangers of the insulin resistance that we are subject to at this time of life. And the sleep. That's almost the hardest thing, right? Because especially in this time of life, because estrogen has left, our sleep has been impacted as well. So getting good quality sleep can be very, very challenging, but it's very important that we make it an intentional part of our lives. Getting to bed at a decent hour, making sure that the room is cool enough, making sure that we don't have any exterior disturbances like any lights, our phones, the television, sounds, and caring about the fact that we're getting anywhere from 7 to 9 hours of sleep. 8 being the magic number, but sometimes we can't get there. So it's important that you do focus and make your sleep a priority and intentionalize getting good quality sleep. And I'm not saying any of these 5 tips that I just told you are easy. They can all be very, very challenging. However, once we incorporate and we start practicing these 5 tips into our everyday lives, they do become easier. And it's actually really super important for us to practice these 5 tips if we want healthy longevity. That means if we want to live more healthy years, if we want to age in a healthy way, these are the things that are important that we do. Not only will we experience the relief of those symptoms today, tomorrow, but in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, our bodies will be thanking us for implementing these 5 tips as habits into our lives. There is relief, but we have to be intentional about it. And if you don't know where to start, I'm your girl. My information is in the description and always is in the description. You could set up a call with me, you can apply directly to work with me, or you could just see more of what I'm about. And while you're here listening, go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel. I have so much information already on the subject, and I'll definitely be coming out with more because as I learn this information, I'm passing it on to you. I'm not keeping it a secret and I'm not gatekeeping. We're gonna get through this together. And I'm here, I just want you to be savvy about your sugar, especially in this time of life. So until next time, I'm gonna say ciao and see you next time. If we consume a health, okay. That's have a ton.